So today I am joined with Scott Hanselman, and he was my skip manager when I worked at Microsoft. So I bugged him to come join me today and telling a little bit of his story about getting started and I guess becoming a almost household name in the tech industry. So welcome, and thank you for being here. I'm very excited.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk to your platform, your people. I've always admired the way that you showed up on LinkedIn for folks.
Yeah, it was a passion project that started with me, and it kind of reminds me the first time I interacted with you was at a conference, and you looked at me and you're like, "What are you doing right now?" And I was like, "I don't know. What am I doing?" And then you dragged me to a talk on just people who had made their way with being on the internet and putting themselves out there and building their own reputation among tech. So I thought of you when I just thought of people who did that well. So I am curious, like, what made you get started blogging? And if people don't know, you have been doing it for a little while.
Yeah, I lost the regularity of the blogging a couple of years ago. COVID slowed me down. The blog started in 2002, so the blog has been alive for 23 years plus. And then I have a couple of podcasts, but I have a primary podcast that I've had for, well, I did 1,000. Let me close the window here. I don't know if you can hear the guy outside.
I can't.
There we go. I've got a show, and I just finished episode 1001. I was hoping to get Satya, our boss, for episode 1000, but apparently it's not a critical business priority to do my podcast, which I think is a fair statement. The podcast has been joyful, much like your streams, and I've been doing it every Thursday reliably. The blogging is hard. I used to do it every Tuesday and Thursday, but once COVID happened and kids happened and all that kind of stuff, I slowed down a bit. But I did it because I wanted a diary that was online. Typically, you start a blog because you want to Google for yourself later. Have you ever searched the internet and found one of your own posts? You know, that's when you know you're truly alone.
Yeah, I have. I used to do fitness training and stuff like that. So every once in a while, I'll go just see what's out there, and I'm like, oh right, I did all this thing, and now the internet is forever. So
yep. Exactly. And URLs shouldn't change. And I've really worked hard over the last 20 years to make sure that all the URLs to my blog still work. And even though I'm not blogging, it still gets, 700,000 hits every month because people are Googling for stuff, old stuff, and finding it,
Mm-hmm.
If I, maybe my retirement will be to bring it back to life a little bit, but it's not dead. It's just kind of like quiet.
So how did you, or I guess when did you start getting momentum as far as building credibility in the tech sector?
Being visible and simply showing up is 90% of it, but you have to show up in an authentic way. I think a lot of people kind of do what they think is networking, which is just randomly calling people or texting people or LinkedIn people and saying, "Can I pick your brain?" And I just don't think that that's authentic. I don't think anyone believes it. I mean, you're generous. I'm trying to be generous. If someone, asked us, "Hey, can I pick your brain?" After the 20th time, you'd like, "Hey, this isn't really scaling." So then you might start a live stream on LinkedIn. You might try to come up with a way to do that because there's only so many weekends. There's only so many weekends with the kids. So one really has to prioritize their time and their mental health,
Yes.
You can try to save everyone, but you can't save everyone. So I'm trying to be present and visible online to be a positive force. But in doing that, a brand developed around it. And I don't like that word brand, but like people are like, "Oh, it's that guy. That guy again. We know that guy. He's the one who was always blogging about helpful stuff." And it started where people would email me questions, and I would answer them by making a blog post. And I think that's the trick. If you do that, if you simply have online writing, right? Like if sorry for the long answer. If a employer is looking for you, they can check your resume, they can call me, they can ask around, like you're known as a positive force, but they're going to find your footprints all over the internet. And they're going to say, "Look, Jacqueline's been creating technical writing and moving things forward for years." your presence, your footprints are a resume of sorts. So a blog is a kind of a living resume by the simple fact that it shows that you are visible and competent and present. So if you do that for 20 years, you will be a mid-level tech blogger of some renown.
So what opportunities do you feel like opened up because of just being consistent, being present, talking about the things you love? I love that you just kind of pull even old tech and you're like, look what I found, and you
Oh
play
yeah.
with it, and seem to have a good time with that.
I would say that. Hang on, I'm hearing children in the background. Can you ask that question again? Sorry, they were
I was
yelling
just
at me.
saying, what I guess. Let me. There goes
I
my brain
apologize.
too.
I'm
No, it's
listening
okay.
to
It's completely
doors
okay.
slamming as teenagers move around the
Um,
house.
I was just kind of wondering when you really started like using that curiosity and authenticity to uh, build who you are. And I was just saying, I love on a lot of your Instagrams and things that I've seen where you're pulling old tech and just
Oh,
having fun with, look what I found, and um,
I think it's
you make it a
repurposing
thing.
hobbies. Repurposing hobbies, like my dad would have hobbies and he would pull me in and say, "Oh yeah, you should come and hang out and do this with me." So I think me doing my old tech or my Commodore 64 or playing with, arcades and stuff is all um, pulling other people in. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna play with this Apple computer. Maybe I'll do a live stream at the same time. So it's a kind of building community. And I think during COVID, when we all moved online, there was an opportunity there to let people who were feeling alone feel more connected. And that's just
Yes.
another kind of showing up online. I learning in public, I think they call it. So that's what I would say I do. I'm doing. I'm learning in public.
So I guess what lessons have you learned along the way when it comes to learning in public? You're putting yourself out there. A lot of people have opinions for all the different tech and what we should be focusing on, what we shouldn't. If you had any lessons learned that you would share with other people.
The fundamentals never grow out of style. Like everyone's having an AI moment now. Everyone's talking
Hmm.
about vibe coding and things like that. I was vibe coding or AI coding yesterday, and the coding part was 15-20 minutes, but the getting it working in the browser and running it in the cloud was another half an hour plus. So it's one of those things where the fundamentals of computers and HTTP and the network and HTML, I don't think is ever going to go to style. Driving stick shift, I call it, right? Understanding how your vehicle operates will always be useful. So when I'm doing my retro computing, I'm thinking about the base of the pyramid, those main hard skills. And I think as we get higher and higher and higher level languages, there's going to be value in the people that can go the entire stack, if that makes sense.
Okay. Um, yeah, I love that idea of just experimenting, especially with newer texts that come out. And I think I guess a lot of people have opinions on where it's going and what's happening, and what
Yeah.
you should use and what you shouldn't. So I just like that idea that you experiment, you put it out there, you encourage other people to go give it a try. And
Yeah.
that makes me
It is
wonder
challenging
what,
though.
yeah,
People
so,
like not everyone can do that. I think it is worth noting that like if you are early in career, you might feel
mhm,
nervous learning in public because then you're going to think that an employer is going to see you exploring and learning, and then they're going to think, ah, this person doesn't know what they're doing, right?
yeah.
So I think I do get a certain amount of free mistakes. As a person in tech of a certain age, I think that people are like, well, it's okay. He didn't know what that acronym meant. He knew what that acronym meant.
Mhm.
So if you can find ways to learn in public on new technology as an early in career person, then I think you should still do it. But I think that there is value in noting that different people at different levels in their career will be perceived differently based on how they choose to learn in public.
Okay. Um, so what do you hope ev- the next generation of technologists start to get out of the trends or curiosity or playing around, like what would you see as a vision for the new people starting out? They're putting themselves out there, and I know we have
I
kids even of the same age, so it's kind of
Yeah,
like, what do I want for my own children when it comes to tech?
yeah. For me, it all comes down to, why are we doing this? Like, what is the point? We need to be doing this to improve people's lives.
Mhm.
Um, there's tech for tech's sake, and there's art just because it's fun and things like that. But I feel like there's a lot of people out there that are just doing stuff to do stuff, and I keep coming back to, did this make someone's life better? Did this tech improve someone's life? So if I were to do a startup or create a product, I would, or work at a company, I would try to make sure, am I making the world better by doing it? And then I would talk about it, talk about it online. Like, there's Microsoft's not perfect, but I think it's better because I'm there,
Mhm.
and it's hard sometimes, but I think I'm doing good work, and the world is better, and the company's better because I'm there, and that's what I kind of focus on.
Yeah, I love that. I remember when we were first talking, I was just kind of like, just go learn the thing, go do the
Yeah,
thing,
go do the
go
thing.
be present and help other people. And I've even had people that have, when they knew I was on your team, they're like, is he actually as genuine as he seems online? And I was like, yeah, actually. So, and I
There's
love that
a
authenticity that you bring to what you do.
There's a
But
buddy of mine on TikTok who's a comedian. His name is Rodney Norman. He's got a big, wonderful, long ZZ Top looking beard, and he'll show up on your reels or your
Mhm.
TikTok every once in a while. He'll go, "Hey, you know, you can just do the thing. You don't have to ask anybody. You're like an adult, so
Mhm.
go do the thing. It's fun. Have a good time." So I have a pretty chill, yeah, go do the thing. If it works, and then go tell everyone about the thing. And if it doesn't work, yeah. Did you have fun? Did you learn? I make all kinds of random crap that doesn't work, but I learned a lot doing it. Didn't
I
have
have a
to
lot
ask
of
permission.
people that they'll tell me they're just kind of afraid to start doing a thing. Like even if it's posting on LinkedIn, it's like, oh, but I'll put myself out there, and what if people don't like what I share? And I just kind of remind them that our brains manufacture what ifs, but they're usually the negative what ifs and not the really positive ones. Like, what if this changes your life, or what if you stumble into something that becomes what people know you
That
as?
is very true. I don't know why our brains do that. It always is looking for the negative. What if this horrible thing happens? And I'm like, that's not what I want to think about. That's going to stress me out.
My therapist tells me it's because our brain's one job is to keep us alive. So it's going to be like looking for uh, threats or danger. Anyway, um,
Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. I do.
something we
I
can
do.
both look into, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. Seriously. I I
Yeah.
d I wouldn't say I'm toxically positive, but I am definitely glasses half full at all times, if possible. So I
Yeah.
try to avoid that kind of negative
Mhm.
self-talk.
Yeah. I've had to learn just, okay, things aren't going to be perfect, but you tried a thing, you have the answer, you learned from a thing, and
Yeah,
you can
exactly.
just keep going forward. Yeah. So, do you have any specific advice if someone is really nervous, they have an idea, they're a little bit afraid to get it out there?
I think the challenging part is that, with the glass half full, glass half empty, is like, when I'm doing a talk or I'm coaching someone on giving a presentation, I'll say, those people in the audience came out to watch you win.
Mm,
So I can tell them with assuredness, the people in the audience want you to win. Um, when you're online and you're talking anonymously, or not anonymously isn't the word. When you're talking kind of out to the world, like, broadcasting like you are right now, you can't be 100% assured that everyone online wants you to win, right? Bad people could show up and be mean. Um, but when you cultivate a community, as a general rule, people in fact do want you to win. Does that make sense?
it does. I love that thought. It goes back to the what ifs. What if people don't like me? But then when you find your tribe, as I've heard it say, then you have people in your court and really forgiving of, okay, this thing didn't work out, but that's okay. What's the
Exactly.
next thing you're gonna do?
Right. So then I think when we get one negative comment, like you could do a show, you could have 100 people say, that was great, very chill, I liked it. And then one person was like, what are you even doing? Ah,
Mhm.
right. And then that's the one you focus on. Right. Like I've done talks and people are like, yeah, that's fantastic. Da, 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 da. And then you get that one person, the room was too cold. I got one guy who's like, I don't like your jacket. Why were you wearing a jacket? And it's just like, okay, it was cold, like it was cold. I wore a jacket. You didn't like the room was cold and you didn't like my jacket. Did you like the 1 hour bespoke custom technical talk that I did? Did you get your money's worth? It was free. How'd you like that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you got to kind of put these things in a compartment and acknowledge that you did your best. You're doing your best. Cut yourself a little bit slack. As I tell my kids, give yourself a little grace.
Yeah, I love that. And I remind myself that a lot. And someone once told me, and it's helped me a little bit with just being online. They're like, when you get the haters, it kind of means you've arrived. So in the online world, it's like, oh, if you start getting heckled, then you have arrived, because I don't know, maybe jealousy or whatever that looks like.
Hmm.
I try and keep that in mind. If I get I had one that showed up and I was like, wait, that means
You
I
had
have arrived now.
you had haters? Congratulations on your
Yes,
hater.
there we go. It was just one, and it was on a post a long time ago. But see, that,
Then
to your
but so you could
point, I
see
still
you're
remember
remembering
it.
it. That's not good.
Yeah, yeah,
Why are we thinking about this hater?
yeah, exactly. I love that, especially like I said, people just to do the thing. In fact, I use that almost as a signal of what should I work on, and it's where's the fear. If it's really even pushing live for this, the first time I did it, I had to do one just by myself to push the button, because it was just a cloud of nervousness. So I said, just go push the button. Um, and I talked a little bit about some of the experiences I've had recently, and
Mhm.
I'm still breathing. It was actually fun. So,
Don't you like also when you see another person twice and you're like, "Oh, it's that person again.
mhm,
Hi. Right, thanks for hanging out." I think that's really cool. There are people for whom I only know as commenters on my blog.
mhm,
But and this gets back to the very beginning when you said, how do people like show up? How do people be present in the communities? Show up. Like even if you don't want to leave, if you don't have a blog or a LinkedIn stream, even leaving kind comments at scale over time can be seen as well.
mhm,
Because whether it be LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, they're all seeing the notifications like Jacqueline left a comment. Like, oh,
mhm,
I know them. I don't know that person. Let's go see what her comment was. So there are people for whom I know only by their comments on social media, even though they don't themselves have a formal blog or a podcast. So showing up kindly at scale for years adds up more than randomly LinkedIn premiuming people and
yes.
saying,
You're making
"Hey,
me
pick your brain."
absolutely giddy right now, because I tell people the number one way to grow on LinkedIn or social media is to interact with other people's stuff. You don't even have to do it yourself. And there are people where if they ask me for help, we've kind of crossed into the
Mhm.
acquaintance, into the friend area, and people love to help their friends. So
Yep.
just being present
Yeah.
is, and I start to get, I check in on people if I don't see their comments after a while, because I just know they're usually there. So I always say, don't let people forget you exist.
Yeah.
Everything
I think
moves
that
so
we're also
fast.
learning the different gradients of friend. Like I use lowercase f, uppercase f, friendly acquaintance, work colleague, but then there's the online friends. But if someone shows up for you every year consistently for years, then that person is your friend, whether you've seen them online or seen them in person. So yeah,
Yeah.
you can show up for people regardless of where they are.
So do you feel like more people did you ever have to go through a phase of reaching out to more people to build an audience, or did you feel like people kind of came to you because of the effort you were taking?
I'm thinking about that. That's a good question. I think the stuff that built my audience early on was more that I was talking about things that were questions they were asking,
Mhm.
which is different than just pushing out stuff I was interested in. So in the early days, I would just look around for problems that were unsolved, questions that were unanswered, and then answer them. So you go to Stack Overflow, you find a question, you answer it, and then you answer the question and then link to your blog. Do that a couple hundred times and you're good. Then when people know you and they're like, oh, it's that guy, then they'll go and follow you just because I like the way that person explains things, or that's a helpful thing. But I think that people don't acknowledge or think that folks will toil quietly for 100 episodes before anyone watches. Like I mentioned that the podcast has 1,000 episodes. First 100, nobody listened. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear the quiet grind. Every actor or B-level actor that then suddenly gets a show or gets a movie, like, oh my God, overnight success. Nah, they were probably extras for the last 5 years, 10 years. So the quiet grind is not respected enough, in my opinion, and people should do that.
I actually have a post-it note on my screen that says you aren't generating content for today, you're generating it for a year from now, just to remind myself of that grind that you're talking about. And even
very reasonable thing.
Yeah, when it came to just being on social media at all, there was the initial, I hit enter on my first post and I had to get up and walk around for a little bit to get the nervousness off. And now doesn't even phase me. I'm like, oh, let me do a post and then I can random thought. I loved your thought of solving or offering a solution to the questions people are asking. And I often tell people trying to get started in tech, even if they're just out of college, to go get on GitHub and find a repository and just start contributing to it. So your name gets recognized, but then people can even see, well, what do you do and how do you do it?
Which brings us back to online footprints.
Yes.
Right? Like when I search for you, Google for you, follow your footprints, am I finding you being a jerk? Am I finding you being pleasant and joyful and helpful? Am I finding comments? Am I finding posts? Am I finding shared articles? Am I finding, and if you're a technical writer or a coder or a program manager, am I finding the artifacts that you can share of the work that you've done? And if you do that long enough, then you'll say, oh, I know that person from the internet. They're good people. And that won't get you the job, but it can get you the interview.
Yeah, I love that a lot. I guess we should recommend to everybody right now, if you haven't Googled your own name, to go do that today and see what's out there.
Yeah, you should Google your own name. You should know how you are visible online and how people perceive you online. And I've had people email me and say, and this is a true story. I had a couple people, well, I think here, over the last 10 years, 3 people have emailed me and said, can you delete this comment that I left on your blog? I'm going back and I'm cleaning up my online presence. I'm trying to be nicer. And I was a jerk in that post. And when people search for it, it's on page 2. Would you mind deleting it? So I'll delete. Yeah, absolutely.
I love that.
Delete. Yeah, cleaning up after yourself, because not everybody was clever when they were 20.
Yeah, I love that. I love that self-reflection and growth in all of us. So even when you see that, and I want to return a little bit to the helper part, because I've seen, even when I was on your team, somebody needing a little boost on LinkedIn for job search or something like that, and you called it, it's a small thing to do for someone, and just to share a post, to do something kind, but it's not a small thing for that other person. So
that is true. I have had people say, oh, you did a tweet 10 years ago, and then you won't see them again, or you'll bump into them at a conference and they'll say, that wasn't the thing, but it was a thing that kicked off my open source career, and I got a job, or like if you're again, we come back to this idea of showing up authentically online for a long period of time. If you are helping people quietly, then 5-10 years from now, you're going to start bumping into those people again. I use the example of like my aunt, who was an 8th grade teacher, and you don't usually see your teachers out of context, but she would see folks 10 years later, 20 years later at like Target or Whole Foods, like, oh my God, Mrs. Hanselman, You're the best. You said this thing when I was 7th grade, and it's always stuck with me. So that right there, that we've all had that experience. Like, you said this thing back in the day that always stuck with me. That's the same as you posted me on LinkedIn and I noticed
Mhm.
and I remember you for it. And I thank you for that. And that caused the beginning of a thing.
Yeah.
And being able to do that is a gift.
Mhm. Yes. So I certainly would chime in plus 10 that on just if someone's feeling down watching
Mhm.
this, go do something kind for someone else. And it almost, for me, it's almost a guarantee that it will improve. That's how my mentorship call started, is I was in the middle of the pandemic, kind of miserable and not helping people. So I said, what's one thing I can do today? And now it's grown 5 years later. No, sorry, 3 years later in that effort, still going. New mentors have joined even. So it continues even if I'm sick or anything like that. We are close to time. Is there anything you would love to, just as a closing thought for people watching today, on either making yourself known? We've said a lot, just show up and be kind.
Um, I would add a little technical thing. I would say that one should do the best they can to own their words. While we like LinkedIn and we like, Facebook and Twitter, and not, maybe we don't like Twitter, but we like these different places. They are walled gardens.
Mhm.
So you're doing this. You're really good at LinkedIn, but if you lost access to your LinkedIn tomorrow, your website would still exist.
Yes.
So I would encourage people, particularly in tech, to have their own domain. Have a website. It can be a WordPress site. It can be a Wix. It can be a Squarespace. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
But have a website that is yours. And in doing that, you will learn about the care and feeding of SSL certificates and paying the hoster and, upgrades and security problems and JavaScript errors. And those in themselves will make blog posts and LinkedIn posts, etc. There's a concept called Posse, Posse, publish once, syndicate everywhere. And the idea is that you start at your website and you go out. So the hub and spoke starts with you at your website, and you utilize LinkedIn and Threads and Blue Sky, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you drive the traffic to yourself. I worry sometimes when creators put all of their eggs in a single walled garden
Yeah,
or
I
walled garden basket.
am working on all of that right now, because it's like investing financially. If it's in one stock or one thing, if something happens, what
Bingo.
do you do?
It's a
So I've
diverse
been trying. Yeah.
portfolio.
Yes, and the same thing for social media. And I love that you're the hub. Your
Mhm.
spokes can go in whatever direction you need them to go, and that's where
Exactly.
you
Exactly.
have that
Well said.
ownership of your thing, and people can't take that, uh, even if they can take your YouTube channels or anything like that. So I'm going to take a deep breath and say thank you for joining today. And there may have been some little bit of technical difficulty in the beginning with the LinkedIn feed. So if anybody's here now and seeing that, then I will repost as we just talked about diversifying. I 100% have the link on YouTube that I can share with anybody.
Yeah, well, that's a great point. You're using
Mhm.
StreamYard to talk to people all over, and you've also got the local recording. So there's always a way to make sure that people see the message that you want to
Yes,
share.
yes. So if anybody's here now and the event didn't kick off right, I'm going to make it right for you. So, all right. Thank you again. I appreciate you. Appreciated working with you, and I appreciate you just helping these efforts now and continuing to give back to the community. And one more time for anybody who's questioned, he is that genuine. And
That's very kind. I apologize for being a couple of minutes late. It's just been a crazy day here at the Hanselman house.
It
So
sounds like it's been crazy for my online presence. So we'll just take what we get and be delighted that we have tech and opportunities to connect over these ones and zeros. So
indeed.
yes, thank you.